Greetings and welcome once again, members of the international community. My name is Dr. Alusine Kanu. I'm one of the hosts for Alusine Multicultural Family Consulting. Every time I meet with you, I have a topic for discussion. Before I tell you today's topic, I want, as usual, to ask that you subscribe on YouTube to Dr. Alusine Kanu. The more you do, the more I'll feel compelled to produce information for your listening pleasure and entertainment. Today's topic is one we all share, and that topic is media and culture. The topic is so broad, so universal, so accessible, that a good way from a scholarly point of view to address the topic of media and culture is to pose a research question. The research question is a statement that directs the attention of the topic in a more scholarly, methodological way, and it's a way to analyze and assess content. So the question I want to pose as a research is, what's the relationship between media and culture? Well, one thing we can say about the media is that it extends our sensory capabilities. I see, I hear, I pretend, I observe. So when we think of the media, we think of a way by which we extend our sensory capabilities. Because of the influences of technology, now we can communicate across time and distance. And sometimes we can duplicate messages. And sometimes we can replicate messages. So the question is, what's the relationship between media and culture? It will take an entire class or an entire semester to talk about that topic. But my approach is first to look at the theories, some of the theories of media, and also to look at some of the theories of culture. The first theory of mass communication I want to talk about is the theory of agenda setting. Sometimes the event sets the agenda, sometimes the prevailing circumstances sets the agenda. There are human interest stories, there are sports stories, there are entertainment stories, there are talk shows. So sometimes the media sets the agenda, and sometimes the events set the agenda. The second theory of mass communication is gratification theory. Gratification theory teaches us that when we are exposed to the media, it feels good. It's a good situation to watch your favorite show, your favorite characters, your favorite, entertainment series. So the media gratifies. It gives a feeling of wanting to be part of the community. A third theory of mass communication is the grapevine theory. Sometimes things happen on a local level. They get on the international and the national. So it's a grapevine. A single event in one part of the world, particularly if it's significant, can be noticed in other parts of the world. The theory of media I encourage is whether or not the medium is the message. For some people, because it's on TV or on the radio, it's taken as granted. For some, they will analyze, they will scrutinize the media to see how to relate to the messages. So those are theories of mass communication. There are many more, but those are ones I would like to share. Agenda setting, gratification theory, grapevine theory, and whether or not the medium is the message. Now that I've talked about theories of mass communication, let's talk about theories of culture. Culture, first of all, is complex because there are many variables. Culture teaches us about worldviews, the religious worldview, the scientific and technological worldview, and the metaphysical worldview. Culture teaches us about music, art, laws, morals, and anything we learn because we belong to a given society. That's our culture. So my research question is the relationship between media and culture. A good way to think about media is the critical nature of media, that the medium may be more than the message. So the critical media teaches us that when I see something on the media, I'm to assess, I'm to analyze, I'm to describe, I'm to review. Cultural studies teach us that because of the complex nature of the world we live in, sometimes it's good to think about the world view of the culture. So when we understand this relationship between media and culture, it helps us to understand the methods that are used whenever information is imparted in the media. It helps us to understand the literature review, what critics say about the media. It helps us to understand the intended effects and the relationship of those who appear in the media. The problem with the media is that, regardless of where it is from, we cannot distinctly isolate non-Western media because non-Western media is also relevant. So when we think about the relationship between media and culture, a best way to describe it is that it's a symbiotic relationship. Media is culture. Culture is media. So a theoretical approach, therefore, is to have a critical inquiry of media. When we have a critical inquiry, that's a way to be media literate. In other words, we should understand the discourse in media studies. We should understand media production. We should understand existing approaches to media. Then we have explanations on what we see when we watch or listen to media. Media plays many roles. Media theory teaches us that to fully understand media, we should be able to understand the socio-economic context in which it is created. Politics, production, the meanings that are constructed, all are codes that contribute to the meaning-making process. Some say a good way to analyze media is to look at the idea of the relationship between the media and the audience. The media programs differently. There are programs for kids, for adults, and there are programs based on occupations, based on experiences. So there is a symbiotic relationship between media and culture. The media informs us when we watch the news. The media persuades us when we look at commercials. The media entertains us. So when we talk of media and culture, we should think critically about what we see and what we hear on television, radio, internet, film, and video games. When we are educated about media, it teaches us what to access, what to analyze, and what communication takes place. Cultivation theory by Gabner teaches us that the media influences our attitudes and our perceptions of reality. So new technologies are ways to participate in reconciliation of media content. So again, my research question is the relationship between media and culture. Of course, the answer is obvious. There is a genuine need for media and cultural criticisms. Sometimes the media and cultural criticism has to do with issues of power relations in communication. Culture teaches us that a good way to understand media is to observe, to analyze the text, to look at the history, to look at the interviews, to look at the qualitative and the quantitative analysis as they relate to culture. So, in integrating considerations of media, critics say sometimes there are issues of gender, the gender stereotypes. Males appear in one way and females in another. The racial stereotypes, the roles people play because of their race, the class stereotypes, all of those are criticisms of media. But we are in a global interdependent state wherein the new media giants are almost everybody. Now we see stories about the personal, the family, about cultures and organizations. The challenge in global media is the allocation of resources. Sometimes resources are not distributed, so that those who may have the information cannot present the information. So a cultural studies point of view teaches us about the use of power. Kellner, a cultural critic, talks about the economic and the social elites. Sometimes those are the ones who encode the media text and the ads. But the challenge of the media is how consumers of media decode messages. Some engage in selective perception. They see only what they want to see. Some bring different experiences as they view those texts. Good media encourages feedback. Good media encourages feedback because when we have feedback, then we have a way of understanding situations. So I've talked about the question, the relationship between media and culture. The last part of my presentation is to talk about how do we become media literate. Well, to become a media literate is to develop a way to analyze media. Sometimes we analyze the codes, the conventions, the stereotypes that are presented based on gender, race, ethnicity, culture. Sometimes we analyze media based on the dominant values, the ideologies, or sometimes we analyze media based on the multiple meanings that are generated, or the socio-political issues, or sometimes we analyze media based on the economic issues, the zero-sum situations, winners and losers. When we analyze media, sometimes we have an identity construction and maintenance. So it's good to be media literate. It's good to understand the social nature of media. And it's good to be thankful for understanding when we talk of media, the interrelationships among gender, race, class, ethnicity. My topic of media and culture is that we should fight for Mr. Right. Whether it's the media or whether it's culture, is what's right, the common good. When we understand the internet, the media, as it facilitates communication, then we can have control on how we represent gender, race, ethnicity, and culture. The media informs us, the media persuades us, and the media entertains us. So there is no substitute for media, and there is no escape from real life. Those are considerations we should have in mind when we talk about media and culture. So my conclusion is that cultural analysis teaches us about the multi-dimensional processes wherein meaning is created when we think of media and when we think of culture. It's good to have community media. It's good to have community media because it's a way to build community. Media should also encourage local cultural productions. So both culture and media are all ways we represent social reality. The media is a form of public communication. The media is the sender, the receivers are the audience, the channel is which medium you use, TV, radio, newspapers, computers. The message is the agenda, either the media sets or the event set. The response, how we feel about the media. The feedback, what we say in relation to the messages that are constructed. So mass communication is when we use devices to duplicate messages. And culture has to do with worldviews. So there is a relationship, a symbiotic relationship between media and culture. That concludes my talk for today. I hope you keep tuning on because I'm an interdisciplinarian. I'm a professor. I'm an author. I'm a media consultant. I don't know everything at all the time, but I'm a public communicator and I've mastered my craft. So my request before I end this conversation is to have you subscribe on YouTube. All you do is type the doctor's name, Dr. Alusine Kanu. So that's all for today. May God bless you. I wish you the very best in all you do. Thank you and God bless.